Hello, witches. Did you hear we're hosting a magical marketplace? Join us on Saturday, October 18th at the beautiful Sunshine Prophecy in Oakland, California for a day of celebrating our witchcraft. We'll have vendors selling their magical wares, we will have practitioners offering their services, and we will have space for the community to enjoy each other. After the marketplace, I, Casey Zabala, will be hosting a tarot workshop on the cards of 2025 and 2026, the Hermit and the Wheel of Fortune. So join us on October 18th, just before the Samhain portal, for a day of celebration, a day of magical connection, and space to celebrate this beautiful community. See you there. Find the link to RSVP to this free event in our show notes. Dear witches, staying up to date with the moon? Seeking a little reminders to re-enchant your world? Subscribe to the Modern Witches newsletter for lunar love notes and magical inspirations delivered right to your inbox. Modern Witches is shape-shifting, yet it will always be a project that centers our mystical community members. Do you have a course or a podcast you'd like to promote to magical babes? Want to share your art with the folks who might be most touched by its spiritual themes? Send us an email at info@witchesconfluence.org to have your work promoted on our newsletter. Subscribe to Modern Witches newsletter in the link in show notes. Hello, and welcome to our Libra season episode, part 1. You're listening to the Modern Witches podcast. I am one of your hosts, Casey Zavala, and I am here with Mariana and Karima, who are ready to dive in.
Hi guys.
Hi everyone.
Yeah.
It's been a season, an eclipse season.
We recorded this episode during the eclipse season.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Tired. I feel like I always get so tired during eclipse season. I don't know.
Yes, it's both tired for me, like very tired, but also feeling like you gotta do something. It for me, and maybe it's this particular eclipse season because it's Virgo heavy. It's a Virgo season that we record this, and we have 2 new moons in Virgo, so it's very much about organizing and discipline and kind of structuring your life. And I'm always like this hypercriticism, and I do have South Node in Virgo that keeps telling me you're not doing enough, and I'm like, what else can I do? And it's like this voice, this Virgo, especially this season, I think it's not just for me. I think it's very much for everyone. It's going to be very much, you're not doing enough. And I would offer a reframing on this. You're not doing enough. You're not doing enough of the things you should be doing for that are aligned for yourself. I feel like I'm doing things that are expected, or the shoulds, the have tos, but I'm really not focusing on what I need to be doing. So Virgo is very much about selectivity. It's selective doing. We're not doing enough of selective doing.
Yeah, like sometimes people with Virgo, we can feel like we're submerged of the list of to-do list we have to do, and because this eclipse happened right now, we're in the middle of it in Pisces. Pisces just want to feel, and there's a big deep rest in Pisces that is needed to process emotion, to process what is happening in the world, in our personal life, that is like the opposite. So it's like creating an opposition in the sky but in ourselves. And Virgo, sometimes I'm trying to remember and to try to train myself to say Virgo likes simplicity. He likes prioritizing. He likes that also one part of Virgo that is very powerful at doing. And so instead of trying to find perfectionism in the sense like
Mhm.
when everything needs to be perfect, we need to have the perfect spreadsheet with all the date. No, we just need to have a spreadsheet with the list of tasks we need to do, and not the timeline. And is it in process on, you know what I mean? It's an example that I'm giving, but it's just like, even just like the fact of doing, because the fact to think of perfection is that lead to procrastination, because it's never enough and it's never perfect enough. So it's like
Mhm.
simplify, simplify, simplify everything. Nothing needs to be perfect. Just do it. Just do it.
Mhm.
Like, but I do think like during eclipses, especially around those days, the rest is deeply needed, and not feeling guilty about it is important. And
Mm,
Mhm.
this is
So
just the
hard.
energy. This is the energy, the rest, because if you're overdoing, it can be triggering anxiety, stress, and exhaustion. And so eclipse is like a time when you see what's coming up instead of like doing. And so that is this balance of having those days when you rest and those days where actually you're doing. That is like, it's gonna be it's tricky to manage.
Mhm.
absolutely. And it's so important, that rest piece. I mean, this episode, we're talking about Libra season, but this shift into Libra marks the equinox. So it's really highlighting this shift from a highly solar season to a more lunar place, and having those both be in balance. And so, when we cross the threshold of the equinox, our days get shorter, and
Yeah.
we're attuning more to darkness. We're attuning more to like what happens at night in our dreams, and like the processing that's important there. So it really goes hand in hand with everything that we've been being asked to tend to this eclipse season with Pisces and
Mhm.
Virgo. Um, and now, like when we cross this threshold at the equinox, it's like, okay, we're committing to these aspects of ourselves that maybe are becoming more realized or crystallizing in some way with the revelations that come up from eclipse season. Um, and yeah, noticing those like those places where you've been kind of like itching for realignment or reprioritization, and maybe
Yeah.
Mhm.
actually knowing a bit more about how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Um,
100%. And just one thing I want to add to that, which is also on point, that when we deal with eclipses, we're not just dealing with this month. Eclipses, we're setting, it's very much cycles that are woven together within the 18-year time
Mm-hmm.
frames.
Mm-hmm.
So this relationship between rest and trust and discipline and structuring is something that's going to be is echoing 18 years back and in 18 years forward. So here though we can't do much during eclipses, but we are really reframing our relationship for the next huge chunk of life to this dynamic. That is
mm,
Mm-hmm.
very important, I think,
Yeah.
to remember.
yeah, because I think, so much of our culture is like really framed in this like urgent, immediate experience of like crisis, because
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of the flavor right now. But it is important to kind of reframe things for like longer term planning, longer term thinking. Like the choices you're making to be more in alignment are small and incremental, and they accumulate over time. And, you know,
Mm-hmm.
And I do like that we have the eclipses before the equinox, just before
mm,
the equinox, because eclipses, like, so we have so many things that remerge to the surface, on conscience. We're in the sign of Pisces, so and
hmm
conscience, and like you mentioned it through dreams, through omen, through signs that we have messages and things like that. And so the equinox, it's a portal. It's a portal that we can use to kind of reflect on where we need to readjust, what need to
Mm-hmm.
rebalance in our life, because the eclipse give us a door to it and give us kind of
hmm
a perspective on that part of our life. And so it's a great time to reflect on the past 6 months, the previous equinox. It's great to work as 6 months, like the eclipse works, kind of a
hmm
6 months. New moon, full moon works a 6 months balance usually. And so it's nice to see that 6 month and see what, like, where am I giving too much? Where am I kind of resisting compromising? And where in my life I need balance, where I need to readjust, because I like that we have a goal of balance, but let's be honest, balance is also a myth. I'm like, it's good as a goal, as a vision, but you also have to trigger like emergency, like you have to take care of emergency in your family. So sometimes your family is going to take more space, sometimes your work's going to take more space. It's just the life that is like this. It's hard to keep everything in balance just because the demand of the world. But it's great to always ask the question, say, okay, I'm giving way too much here. I think I can readjust a little bit, and have this always goal to recreate balance, because we know that it leads up to exhaustion at the end of the day. If we stick into that imbalance constantly, always readjust. And that equinox is perfect for that, because the balance of light and night, and it's a great portal to use that energy, you know. I
Absolutely.
enjoy equinox a lot, because it's just remind me that my goal is balance in life, even if it's impossible. Even if it's like a myth for me, but it's like something that I always want to reach because it helped me.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's oh, sorry, go ahead, Mary.
No, I was just agreeing. I was agreeing.
Just agreed.
No, I just think it's a nice moment of honoring what you've accomplished and like what more is to be done too, which I think is like, I see it as, holding opposites more as balance. It's like, oh, like I'm honoring the polarities that exist in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm honoring how I can be both and, rather than like hyperextending in one way. Like, how can I like also do the things that are slow and like calming and all these things. So
Yeah.
that's another way to think about it, I guess.
Yeah. No, this it's such an important recalibration moment. And with eclipses, I have this nodal axis of Virgo and Pisces. And I just want to like say, and I mentioned this before we started recording, that we're going to have one more eclipse of this nature, like the Pisces one. We have the new beginnings more on the Virgo side and more endings on the Pisces side. So from where I stand, and I agree that we need to suspend the sense of urgency, because this is all like long-term playing out scenarios. But there is an emphasis on personal responsibility somehow here. Trust in the universe is so important. But I think from where I'm standing, there is something we need to internally shift with prioritizing, not in doing more or like going against the grain, but really shifting something in our personal agency, Virgo part, and doing that and taking greater responsibility with the trusting that things will just universally in our lives will work themselves out. They will, given we're doing the right thing. And if you do a ton of the wrong thing, that doesn't equal a little bit of the right thing. Just do a little bit of the right thing in your life. Just try to like really sift through this like lists, this to-dos, this emergencies, urgencies, to like a little bit of a right thing. Like take that little responsibility. That's what I came to understand about this eclipses from like personal, doing more not gonna, but doing the right thing. It's like the emphasis is responsibility, a personal one here. And then trusting. I know people like that but things won't work themselves out. I'm sorry to be like,
Yeah.
but really, really,
you have to, I mean, it's like a principle. I think a lot of baby witches make this mistake when they're like doing spell work. It's like the symbolic action is like so important and the intention is so important. 100%. But unless you like follow it up with like concrete action, like practical grounded steps in the direction you want to be headed, like the energy has nowhere to go. There's no,
Yeah.
no way to support you if you're not participating
Exactly.
in the process.
Mm-hmm.
It's so true. And I know we're talking about Libra, but I think this is a very important for everyone to take out of just everything happening. I think Casey mentioned this some time ago with her nodal axis, the overemphasis on the north node and underemphasis on the south node. For the last, I don't know how many years, I've went through the same thing with an overemphasis on the Pisces part of my chart and underemphasis on the Virgo part of my chart. It's hugely detrimental to do that, people. You can't you can disagree with me as much as you want and be like, you have to go to in the direction of your north node. I don't agree with that narrative. You almost sometimes won't have a choice but to go there because you'll be pulled. Like, it's such a like insatiable point. But if you completely succumb to that insatiable hunger of that north node, things will fall apart.
Yeah.
Do
It's
not
so like, have you,
chase.
I
yeah,
totally agree with that.
it's been crazy for me because yes, that has totally been my narrative. And recently it's like everything that is my North Node adjacent, like, because I do like daily divination for myself, and they're like my guides. They're just like, stop going that direction. Why are you going that direction? Like,
Mhm.
it's crazy. It's so interesting to see this like recalibration. And I think, especially I was born in an eclipse. So eclipses season, any eclipse season is like we're talking about my nodes. And
Yeah. The witchy Casey is born under an eclipse. Of course she's
oh,
born under an eclipse. Of course she is.
it hurts. But I mean,
I
like
bet.
it's really it's like letting go. Like the south node of like letting go, of like flushing things out, composting, processing things is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Like that area of your chart to like, in order to grow, expand to your north node, what I'm realizing is like you also need to be composting this stuff. You can't just expand on the north towards the north node incessantly.
And
Just
like
doesn't
you
work like
don't
that.
have the north node is not your doing. A lot of the time, the north node happens on its own because it's so insatiable. It just pulls you there. It's That's a thing it's very important to realize. And in, like, for example, in Vedic astrology, in Indian tradition, the south node is the spiritual point. The north node is not. It's in the south node that the spiritual work is done. And I honestly, when Casey, you were saying this, I kind of felt it, but during this eclipse season, even like a couple of weeks before that, it became so evident to me that it is, for me personally, it's in the Virgo, it's in the work, it's in the service, mundane service, that I have liberation. And even like I love in this Howard Sasporta's book about the houses, where he said, unless you become children, you can't get into heaven. Like, it's someone's quote. I'm rephrasing it, but the point is, to become children is doing less. It's a south node work. It's unlearning work. It's less work.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not adding, it's subtracting.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, yeah. I mean, a comment to our audience, like, let us know how eclipse season went because, whew, and if you
Yeah.
want to ask us more questions about eclipse season, feel free to join us on our Patreon and yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah.
And
Um,
like I said, I like that I think the equinox will help a lot in
Mhm.
the sense, like we mentioned it about balance and
Restart.
about kind of re-asking the question of where my boundaries is too low, like where to lose, where many questions like this that coming up is good to review, but it's also the embracing of the shadow and the light equally. And I feel with as soon as just before the sun entering Libra, we have Mars going into Scorpio.
Mhm.
And it is
So good,
so good because I
personally.
feel it helps us really dig into that shadow side of ourselves and to get very real, to stop with the superficial and to get really real with ourselves. And it's been 2 years, so I really like this Mars in Virgo, in Scorpio, for, like, of course, many different reasons, but it intensifies our focus. It really intensifies our drive, our emotional depth. It really, like I said, cut through the superficiality and confront us with what truly matters. What truly matters for us collectively or personally. And so it's a period when it's like there's a pull towards like, what is your ambition, what do you want to, what is your thing, what do you want to do, like in your relationship, in your work, in your family. And you might feel like very drawn to uncover like hidden truth about yourself or about other people, but is always with kind of a goal that is like like embody the warrior a little bit. So it's like a very driven goal, and I like that. And yeah, emotional intensity can surface, is like passion can really surface with Mars in Scorpio, is like, yeah, it's desire that have been brought to the surface too. And I like this. We're talking about the real you, we're talking about
Mhm.
who you will, like who you are really. And then we have the equinox, the Sun enter Libra, and that's where we can get true to out there with asking the right questions and using that portal, that magical portal, and those energy to reset for the next 6 months again. And what do we want to build for the next 6 months, for the next equinox? Yeah. Oh, thank you, Casey, for sharing. That was my turn to share
Don't worry.
the
Don't
chart.
worry.
Sorry, I went on, and I should have.
No,
Sorry,
no, it's
Casey.
all good. We're here.
Yeah.
We're here. I just want to name that the equinox is on September 22nd,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
in 2025, and the new moon was on the 21st. So, the solar eclipse in Virgo was on the 21st. So we really just like, it's a real cut to equinox after this portal that we're
Mhm.
talking
It's
about
like
here.
over the
So,
edge. It's such a
yeah.
Yeah.
we're crossing
It's like we're being
moment.
shoved.
Yeah, crossing is a gentle term for that.
Yes. And so this is the chart of the equinox here with we see Mars at 0 degrees of Scorpio and then the Sun at 0 degrees of Libra. Also in Libra, we have Mercury and the Moon on the equinox. So I do think it is an equinox that has like this ease of communication and this like maybe we're like starting to get clear about um, what we are, what our goals are for this like lunation or this lunar cycle here as we get out of the eclipse portal, as the moon and Mercury move away from the sun. Like there's more awareness of like, okay, what am I bringing into actualization as we like near the full moon? So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the ruler of the season, at the beginning of the season, a huge part of the season is going to be in Virgo. So Venus is in Virgo, Mercury is in Libra. So there is a mutual reception between those two signs and the houses in your chart that are corresponded with Virgo and Libra, which eases the Virgo in Venus and Virgo situation when there's a mutual reception. So there is like an information directly coming from Libra, kind of guiding this Venus and Virgo. The thing that comes to me as a central that leads us in this quarter of the year is that this is with Mars in Scorpio and everything else, Venus and Virgo, it's still very much behind the scenes of work that we're doing. All the outer planets are retrograding. So the big picture we're working on is in reworks. It's not obvious. So, and the inner planets are working in such a way that seems very much, okay, so we've cleared a lot through eclipses, through all that stuff. And now can we really get down to behind the scenes work? Because in the next 6 months, I have to say, it's not gonna be like, or you like being pulled into some kind of scenario or situation that you really want to be in. It's going to be a lot of work to get there eventually. It's all the way into February, March, I think, and it starts with this Libra season. A lot of Virgo kind of work behind the scenes. And a lot of that work is going to be about building right relationships, right partnerships, connecting to people, reaching out to people, maybe picking up some connections that have been established during the summer before eclipse season. You know, there's just some kind of like, let's create structure around this thing that we realized we have to work hard at.
It's like it's a good time for organizing, and like dipping deeper into like community practices. It's making me think, like, as you're talking, Mariana, it was making me think of this whole situation that's happening with the Texas gerrymandering, where like the president is trying to basically rig the midterm elections by acquiring more Republican seats, and how California is getting involved and talking about redistricting. And I do think there's something like Mars and Scorpio about that, of like, we're looking at power plays. And that can be happening like on a collective scale, like we're renegotiating like how power is being mapped. And I think that happens in our own lives in the ways we are like really considering the landscape and how things are really shifting. Maybe whatever came up through eclipse season is recalibrating through you. And it's time to really consider your own power and like where you're most effective in relationship and like in communities and all of that. So yeah, it's a potent time.
Yeah. And with Mars in Scorpio, I can't, like, I'm looking at it and I'm like, there's Lilith there. There's Lilith there.
Yeah, I was seeing that.
I'm like, ooh. I mean, it's in the beginning, from the beginning of Libra season, it's the orb is great. It's a big orb, but nevertheless, it's there, and that power and redistribution of power, it's shady.
It's shitty because also we're going to talk about it, but so there's so much happening also just after the sun entering Libra. So we have the sun that entered Libra on the 22nd, then the sun opposing Neptune, and then trying Uranus and trying Pluto. So we have the sun just entering and talking to those big planets, those generational planets that really talk to the collective. Those planets are really about the collective. So I totally join you about the collaboration, partnership, how to talk. It's a great time to come back to community and to build, because there's something that's being built for the future here. And like Mariana, you said, for the next 6 months, which is very important to say, there's a lot of those planets that's going back to the sign that they were prior, like for the past years. So we have Saturn already in Pisces. We have Neptune going back to Pisces this season. We're going to have Uranus going back to Taurus. So there is those finishing business that we need to do to tackle the real work that's coming up in 2026.
Yeah.
Also, I have to talk about it more intensively, but what you said right now with Black Moon Lilith, and you say like that, and Casey, you said it, the power struggle, because we have a huge transit that week after the sun coming into Libra and doing all those things with the generational planet. There's Mars that's going to, on the 24th, that same week, it's going to square Pluto. And that is the one that I'm like, this week is very like intense. Like Mars is challenging Pluto. Is very confrontational, very confrontational. Is internal struggle, like external struggle that will rise, and the energy is intense.
And Moon is in Scorpio with Mars.
And the moon is in Scorpio. And it's great personally for like, I feel like personal transformation is very challenging, but in terms of inner work, personal transformation, deep reveal of truth, very raw, very challenging, and maybe brutal. It there is something here for people like who like to work with that type of work. But in terms of the collective, it can be really brutal. It can be like news that show us the deepest truth of politician, of the hiding agenda, of what is under the surface and all this power struggle that is never about our own benefit, but their own benefits. And so it's a very power dynamic transit that is like internal and external. And I think it's going to be seen in the world that week because we
Yeah.
have the sun that is communicating with so many, like I said just before, so many outside our outer planets, and they're like, we need to organize, we need to
Mm-hmm.
talk, we need to protest, we need to gather. Like there's a deep need because the power is doing their own thing right now, and those transits are very speaking to about it.
Very interesting. But Sun is leaders. And
Mm-hmm.
leaders plot from the beginning with Uranus and
Mm-hmm.
Pluto. There is a support of the news, Gemini, an informational channel. There's
Yeah.
support of technology, Pluto to the Sun. There's support. And then just a few days later, the Moon starts separating from the Sun, far away, meets Mars that squares Pluto. Moon is people and squares that technological aspect of the the bonding between Sun and Pluto. So something like either again something maybe with voting because it's in Aquarius Pluto, maybe some changes within the voting rights or
Mm-hmm.
voting structures, and then people are just not
There
okay with
is,
that.
I think we're waiting on some like executive order about voting.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
we just to remind you, we're talking about the first week, so from September 22nd to September 28th, the
it's a big
equinox.
first week of
Oh
Mm-hmm.
God.
Libra
Yeah.
season. Like
Yeah.
I think, and you know, as we've been having these transits to all these planets as they enter um into these signs, it's like we're getting a hit of this like collective information. So I don't know, it feels important to like be tuning into what's happening in your communities, what's happening in the news, like in ways that feel safe to you, healthy, but like I would say it's a good time to like be aware of what's happening in the
It's
world,
100%.
you know?
And going back to eclipses for a little bit, eclipses is hiding. Eclipses
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
are when something is eclipsed, sun is hiding, moon is hiding, something is hiding, you
mhm.
know? And it's like as with the last eclipse, though it's not going to be total one, but still right away we hit with the Libra season where things just starts coming at us.
It's
That's
so crazy because I
mhm.
keep thinking about the Epstein file thing.
Of course.
And like
Yeah.
how they Congress just went back into session as like we're recording this in early September. And like I feel like that's gonna be a big deal. Like hiding, repressing that. Mars in Scorpio, square Pluto and Aquarius.
Sexual
Yeah,
also
it's
very
like, yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what's revealed this week of like September 22nd to the 28th after
Yeah.
all is shaken
Because
out.
it's specifically because that Epstein file is really kind of the mm, one. I saw a different subject, but one of the subject that align a lot with like right and left.
Yeah, it's a
It's the only
bipartisan.
subject we're talking about pedophilia.
Mhm.
So there is a common agreement without even saying it between all between the entire like American people around that file.
Right.
So
mhm.
very
How
interesting.
badly the other thing is Palestine, obviously, that a lot
Exactly.
of right and left are united on, and those are
Mhm.
two the most suppressed things. How
Yeah.
badly they do not want us to find a common ground.
Hmm.
We can disagree and be different, but I think it's their hand that creates the horrible fear mongering
Mm-hmm.
about what
Hmm.
one side will do to the other side if. But they
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
there doing everything.
And
Hmm.
even now it's so interesting to see that those two subjects of being the common ground of all political sphere, and that even with that, the leaders are keep trying to push against the will of their own people. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's like very interesting to see. And I'm like, is it going to keep our leaders are going to keep doing that? Because if they do, they're losing. they're
Right.
losing big time.
But the thing is, like, my fear with this astrological configurations, I have a friend, Karima, you know her, like she's in politics, and she makes this emphasis that we're gonna vote everyone out. And I'm like, they're coming for voting. Will we be able to vote them out? Because
Right.
this is
Yeah,
because
it's crazy.
it's so evident to like not just like a slight majority, but a huge majority on both sides of the aisle, people, that they don't represent our interests, no matter where you stand, and they will be voted out. So the only thing they can do is go after the voting. And I'm like, this is gonna be really bad. But they're gonna package it, because the dispositor, for example, of Pluto in Aquarius, that which I associate with voting here, and the suppression of voting, Saturn in Pisces, with lies and some kind of fog and some kind of stories that are not necessarily true, especially when Neptune comes back there. Made up shit that excuses things.
We've already seen it, like the seeds have been sown already.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, there's
this Mars in
so
Scorpio is
much
gonna
there.
be.
Yeah, Scorpio season. We're not there yet. We're not there yet,
Yeah,
but
we're not there yet, and you're having that kind of tone, like it's very interesting, and like, and then the week after, like from September 29th to October 5th, it's the energy is still here because there's not that many things happening, except on October 1 we have Mercury in Libra squaring Jupiter in Cancer at 22 degrees, but that week seems like a pause in the chaos that happened just before. It's like a keep lingering in that week, because I do think Mars in Scorpio squaring Pluto is gonna, something not maybe happening right on the day, but on the 25th, something that been decided on the 24th, around the 24th, and we start to know about it the week after. I just feel that sometimes kind of vibe with Pluto, especially because it's a slow moving planet. But it's just, it feels like those 2 weeks for me, because it will be like intensified with a lot of like political. I mean, for me, everything is political. So when people say I'm not interested in politics, I'm like, what are you interested in? What? In what exactly? I just don't understand, because everything is political for me. But yeah, I do think like taking care of yourself during those 2 weeks, going back to your practice. We always say Saturn in Pisces, going back to your safety zone, your like where you can retreat yourself, when you can recuperate, that is with a group, or that align with your value, or that is with only yourself and your ritual. It's going to be very important. Very important.
Absolutely. I feel like, yeah, I don't know. I think that this Mercury in Libra forming this square to Jupiter in Cancer. Yeah, I think I would say also in terms of like managing all the intensity of the beginning of the season is like, make sure you're finding a way to communicate, or if you're struggling to communicate, like make it a focus to journal or to, talk into your phone, like, because I think when we get to this point with Mercury squaring Jupiter, like if we are like, I feel like it has the potential to highlight uncertainty in a way, like highlight like the confusion and the noise if we haven't necessarily been honing or like working through untangling communication issues.
Yeah.
And maybe that will happen regardless, but I do think it's something to be conscious of here.
Yeah. And like we also, Mars in Scorpio, we know we're like very heavy on that Mars in Scorpio because it's communicating with Pluto, but it's also Mars in Scorpio is great for journaling, shadow work. It's great for therapy, anything that can help channel this intensity, very constructive, building up on that. It's very important. It's in avoiding like trying to control like outside behavior or power struggle that you don't have a strong impact, or you cannot control. focusing on mastering your own drive and your own challenge and, thing that happening inside of you. Mars can help with that a lot because he's very hand in hand with those type of work, therapy, shadow work, journaling, divination, like that type of work that can feed you a little bit.
I want to bring up one more actually transit that's happening that week. I think that's very important. On the next day, on October 2nd, into 3rd, Venus will conjunct South Node. On 3rd, October 3rd, probably.
Yeah.
October 3rd.
So,
yeah, Venus will, and I really want to, because it's Venus rules this season and coming together. When is it exactly?
Let's see.
3rd, 4th. It's like,
where am I? This is the driving issue.
yeah.
Let's see. Oh, wait.
So,
it's on October 4th.
4th.
So Venus will conjunct South Node. I don't want to alarm anyone, but something with the financial situation of people and their maybe savings or their work or their salary, because Venus in Virgo, there is a drain in here that is so evident and it's sort of like something maybe like on a more like collective or like country level, budget level, something will be revealed as cutting Venusian things even more so further. And also, but if we talk not just like on financial side of things, it's something that that you perceive to be of value, you either can't rely on anymore, something that brings something into your life is drained, or it just loses its meaning and its value through certain understanding. It's very like, I think this is like one of the very important transit to watch as what's leaving your sense of value, or like where you like what you do in your daily life or how you exert your efforts. Something there is being diminished. Again, depending on where you have Virgo in your chart and where you have your natal Venus. But yeah, well, let's see what else they'll cut.
This conjunction also, like, I'm concerned when I see this type of conjunction, especially because Virgo represent a government, Venus represent women and women's issue. And when I see this, I'm like, what is gonna cut? What's gonna happen with women issue? And we know that Mars is close to Black Moon Lilith, that in Scorpio, there's a lot happening with women and women reproductive system and issue like this. And when I see this, it's a lot about those issues that have been brought up to the surface and what they're gonna cut or what.
One of the voting things that's been floating around is that they're going to require that your voter registration, the name on your voter registration, matches your birth certificate. So this affects women who get married and change their names.
Yeah.
Oh,
It
shit.
affects people who change their genders.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I am aware of. And I want everyone to be aware of. So yeah.
This is a way to cut them out
Mhm.
from voting, which we'll talk about. We did talk about it a little bit earlier, how they're going to suppress the voter with the Mars squaring.
Voting is going to be central thing this Libra season. Because again, Libra is about the rights, justice and rights. And all this, what's happening, it doesn't look too good for voting rights.
So definitely time to stay informed, stay connected, you know, be aware of organizations that are already doing a lot for voters' rights, like Power to the People, I know is one of them. Beto O'Rourke's organization that has done a lot and is in kind of trouble at the moment. So yeah, get out there and like be conscious of what's there, and maybe we can put some links in our show notes as well, in our newsletter for those of you subscribed. But you know, this is the beginning of Libra season. This is the equinox. With all the intensity happening, I also want to encourage people to not forget the rituals that bring meaning and grounding into your daily lives, especially marking the equinox, you know, with feasting, sharing, gratitude practices. This is so in alignment with everything we've been talking about in terms of staying connected to community. So find a way to like volunteer, give back, ask for support if you need support. This is all a really good time for that.
Yeah. And to that point, I want to like add one thing that is like what you said kind of reminded me, and it's very important, is that with nodes still obviously in Virgo and Pisces, people expect that someone will do something for them. And with 2 new moons in Virgo, it's to what you said, Case, it's so important that everyone really gets this done. Think what you can do for others. Even if it's not on collective level, it's not on a grand level, but just for your own kind of clarity ahead, think who can you support. We always think who can support us. Who can you support? Reframe that for a second.
Yeah, I think it's really, really good to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just, before we wrap up this episode, I want to thank you all for listening. Thanks for being here. If you would like to share this episode with a friend, we'd be delighted if you did. And I want to remind folks that Modern Witches is hosting a gathering in October 18th, with our friends, the Sunshine Prophecy and the Rebus. And we'll be hosting a free marketplace on October 18th at the Sunshine Prophecy in Oakland on Piedmont Ave. It's a gorgeous space, vintage store. We'll have so many incredible vendors there. You can get readings. You can get your spiritual wares. You can connect with this witchy community. And then after the marketplace closes, I'll be hosting a tarot workshop on the archetypes of 2025 and 2026, the Hermit and the Wheel of the Year. And it'll be a really experiential, creative tarot workshop that hopefully will give us some grounding into these archetypes and their magic. So we'll link all of that in the show notes. Subscribe to our newsletter if you don't already, and hope to see you in person soon.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Karima. Thank you, Mariana. Thank you for tuning in to the Modern Witches podcast. We hope you've been inspired to cultivate your own magic and to craft your own spiritual practices. Let us know what sparked your curiosity by leaving us a comment on this episode or leave us a review. And don't forget to subscribe to the show so that you never miss an episode. Your feedback and engagement truly fills our cups. If you're looking for more ways to gather with your fellow witches, please support our work on Patreon. Learn more at modernwitches.org. Blessed be.